you guys were in a playoff spot around the All-Star break. Just curious to get your sort of assessment of where things got away from the team down the stretch.
Yeah, I think, coming out of the All-Star break, we were pretty excited that we were a healthy team. Went into Colorado, won that game, and then from there we had some injuries. Losing our top two D-men, I think that hurt there for a period of time, losing both Alex and Chris. So, but that's, we got to continue to add to the depth of our group, and that's something that we're going to look to do this summer.
You, as a team, were the lowest scoring team in the NHL from Christmas on.
Yeah.
Again, your top-end guys had a good run, sort of all hit the wall around the 60-game mark.
Yeah.
What's it going to take to get young players to be able to produce through not just 82, but where you want to go, they're going to have to play 25 games beyond that?
Well, I think, that was a good experience for our young players this year because, from that 60th to that 80th game, like teams, are starting to dial in for the playoffs. And, we talked about this all year is that it gets harder then and it's harder to score. And so, I talked to some of our young guys yesterday and, that they gained a lot of experience from that. And, having going through it, I think they're going to be better going forward.
Jim, what are your tough decisions heading into the offseason when you look at your roster, especially the bottom six? You have a collection of a lot of guys who pretty much play the same style of game. Mm-hmm. Could argue maybe you need more talent down there on that side. Where are you looking at some of those guys? Are we looking at possible buyouts or moving guys? How do you see your bottom six?
Well, we just finished the season 2 days ago. We're going to sit down as a management team here this next couple weeks, and we're going to go through all the players and talk about, what players we want to continue to work with going forward in their development.
You must have an idea, though.
I have an idea. We have some injuries, like Roos had surgery and he's not going to be available at the start of the year. And so, we're going to talk about it as a group and we're going to decide the direction that we want to go and then we're going to act accordingly.
Is it imperative to get more help in your upper six, Travis, for your top two lines to improve that? Or are you also looking at improving the back end, which we know needs to pick it up a little bit more? What do you guys both see in terms of that one?
Well, I think as a group we have to improve in a lot of places. You've got Bo, Brock, and Petey up front that have had solid years. I think adding Tanner Pearson was a big plus for our group. It was nice to see the chemistry that him and Bo developed together. But when you're a team that doesn't make the playoffs, you're going to look to make improvements throughout your lineup, and that's part of the progression. And obviously, our young players improving as well over the summer.
Jim, are you prepared to spend in free agency?
Can I ask you to wait, please?
Jim, I know that Francesco just recently put out his letter to the season ticket holders, and he talked about a review, which is kind of a standard thing for an owner to say. How confident are you that you are part of ownership's plans going forward?
Well, I have a good relationship with Francesco and the ownership group. We talk weekly. They understand our plan and where we're at. They've been very supportive of the direction of the team this year. Coming into the season, we had a lot of question marks. We had the Sedins retiring, like who was going to do the scoring for us? And I think over the course of the year, we've seen that Petey and Bess, were able to do that for us. I think that's a step in the right direction. Seeing Quinn Hughes at the end of the year play those 5 games and, the offensive defenseman that I think that we've lacked, in the past, and seeing what he can do with the puck and his skating, that's exciting. So they've been very supportive of both Travis and me in the direction that we're going, and so I expect that they're going to continue with that.
Just a couple of follow-ups then. Just contract-wise, what would you like to see happen this offseason, and do you expect to maybe get some management help when you look at some of the other organizations? There's a little more, on the management team above or below. Do you expect to see any changes there?
Well, we have a lot of people in place and a lot of people behind the scenes. That maybe like Doug Jarvis as an example, like he does a lot of work for us, with our big team here. He's a sounding board for me, for the coaches. He goes down to Utica 2 weekends, over the course of the winter and watches them play and reports back to me what's going on down there. You know, I speak to RJ every couple days on the Utica situation and what's going on in Utica. So we have lots of good people in place. But, you know, that's another thing that we're going to talk about and review at the end of the year. And if we feel like we can add somebody to our group that's going to make us better, we're going to look at it.
Contract?
I have one more year left on my contract.
Would you like to potentially get that extended this offseason if it were to work out?
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Talking about Utica, there was a lot of hope about a series of prospects that were there. Dallin gets traded, Palmu left, Lind and Gadjevich combined for 6 goals, and Yashik kind of trended down over the second half of the season. From your point of view, like what happened in Utica and what happened with those prospects?
Well, and Travis can talk to this too, but, you know, it's a big step sometimes going from junior to the American Hockey League. And, you know, our young players, we have a plan for each one of them. And it varied. Like Cole Lind got hurt. He played a month and then he got hurt and missed 2 months. And then, you know, you miss 2 months and it's a struggle to get back and get up to speed and stuff. But I think over this last month, he's, you know, showing good strides till he got hurt there a week ago. But, you know, but it's these players, like development, everybody develops on their own path. And some guys, you know, we see can step right in and play in the NHL, and other players need more development time. And so we're going to continue to work with these guys. We really like some of them still as prospects, and we think they're going to be NHL players. But, you know, they need to, you know, keep developing.
And are you going to look at the situation? Like, are you concerned at all about what happened this year in terms of?
Well, I think, you know, part of what happened is, you know, we ended up getting a bunch of injuries up here, and then we ended up calling, players from down below, and then, you know, bringing in East Coast League players that, you know, maybe didn't help out as much, or if they would have had their full team. So they were hurt with injuries. But, you know, when I talked to RJ, I talked to Trent a couple weeks ago, you know, I think those guys have done a real good job down there, and we're going to continue to support them and help them in any way we can.
What do you see as the deficiencies on the Canucks roster? Like, what do you think the team needs?
Well, it would be nice to, you know, add another top 6 player, you know, to score, to help us in the scoring department. I think getting Tanner Pearson, like, we're excited about that. There was good chemistry with Bo and when they played together, and it seems like there's a good fit there. And, you know, we want to look at our defense. And if we can, you know, make some upgrades on defense, we'd like to do that.
And in that letter that Francesco Aquilini wrote and sent out, he said that he wished that the team was further along in its rebuild program. Mm-hmm. Why do you think the team is not?
Well, I think, you know, we took a big step this year. Like, you know, if you look at where we're at the start of the year, I think there's a lot of hope for our team. You see our young players, the year Petey had, the year Bess had. Bo, I think, took another step. Like, these are 20, 21-year-old kids, you know, Quinn's 19 playing, you know, and you look at when teams get good and when they win with 26 to 35-year-old players. So these are our best players. So I think, you know, I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about what happened this year and the growth of those young players, and looking forward to training camp. We have lots of work to do this summer to continue to add to this group to get to the next step, but we're going to do the work and hopefully we get there.
Jim, those 2 areas you identified, you know, Pearson's a nice get and helped Bo a lot, but to go into free agency, are you prepared to spend, say, for argument's sake, a first-line right winger? Are you prepared to spend in free agency to address that need?
Well, in free agency, we're going to look at all of our options, and if there's moves that we can make to address, like, weaknesses that we think we have, we're going to try to be aggressive to address those weaknesses.
Priority, though, is it?
That's a priority.
The back end, too, I mean, you do have a surplus of players. You have a lot of RFAs. It's hard to get defensemen, whether you're trading for them or in free agency. Are you of the mind that maybe there's a trade you could broker to get somebody to help in that mix?
We're going to look at all of our options, whether, you know, it's through trades, whether it's through free agency. We're going to, you know, make sure that our young defensemen have a good summer and they come back and they're better next year than they were this year. So, we have lots of different avenues to try to get better on the back end next year.
Travis, how much can you improve from within? You're 9 short of the last wild card spot. You got guys who are at the 14, 15 goal mark. Do you see 20 goal potential in guys? You talk about guys like Levo, Jake. Do you see that possibility?
Well, I think
from
that's
within?
part of the improvement curve, is our young guys continuing to get better. When you finish the way, the season that we had, how do you get better? It comes from internally, or it comes through, acquiring new players. And we're going to have to push our young guys to continue to improve. I think Jake Virtanen's a good example. I thought he took a step this year. I thought he had a great start to the season. He had some inconsistencies in his game. And now how does he come back and make our team better? Josh Levo is another good name. I thought he gave us some good minutes. How can he come back and become a better hockey player and a more consistent player? And these are all, each player individually we will talk to at the end of the year. How are they going to push the bar higher? And it's a big responsibility for the players that come back.
As a coach, though, when you see Bo play all 82 games, set a career high for points, lead the league in faceoffs taken, is there another ask of Bo on another level? Or is he giving you everything you expect?
Yeah, well, you hope that has Bo Horvat become the best player Bo Horvat's going to be. We've talked about that a lot this year. Last year I thought he had another step. I thought he took one this year. I think he's still capable of becoming a better hockey player. I don't think he's maxed out yet. And it doesn't always involve goals and assists. I thought he took a step in our leadership group, and that's all positive for our group.
How much of an intangible is that? Because when the door opens, it's not the Sedins, we go straight to Bo. How much of that?
It's not. I don't think you just put the load on one person. Leadership is it goes throughout your locker room, and a lot of people from the outside think it's simply one guy or one young guy. There's a lot of guys that help within that group that people don't see behind the doors.
Injury disclosures, or anybody who needs any procedures? Usually we find out today if somebody's got something that might need dealing with.
No, I haven't got the
off-season.
report back yet from John.
Thank you.
Jim, every season you've been here, you've had the site injuries as an issue. Have you been able to put your finger down why it's such a problem here?
Well, I have some ideas as to, why we end up getting hurt so much. I think one, with the compressed schedule now where we play, so many games in a short period of time. And I think I'm hoping that as our team gets better and we attack more and we're on the offensive side of things more, that, we're not defending and, blocking as many shots and then hopefully not getting as many injuries. I think, we did a study on it last year for 3 weeks and we looked at a lot of different things and, I think those are the two things that, make the most sense.
You talked about addressing some needs in free agency this summer. How do you assess the three free agent signings that you made last July 1st and how they came along?
Well, I think, going last year we wanted to kind of, we knew we were going to have some young players come in and play on our team, but we wanted to bring in some guys that were going to help with the culture of our team and, that had the daily habits of doing things the right way. And we talked to some of the young players yesterday, and they brought up, how much Jay Beagle helped in the room this year, and helped them in practice time. Like, sometimes when things weren't going good and we weren't winning as many games as we should, like he was always positive with the young players and helped them, get through the year. Same with Roussel. Like I think Roussel, he was a guy that brought energy to our group, and he kind of, led our group into the battle every night, and so, I think, he was good for us this year, and Schaller, had a bit of a tough time, like finding his footing, but I thought the last month when he played, like he's, found a spot where, he can help us going forward, but all three of them, and Travis can talk about this too, they were, they changed the culture of our group. Like if we look at over the season, there's probably a handful of games that I would say that, we weren't competitive in, that, we were overwhelmed. And I think, those guys, it doesn't always show on the scoreboard and stuff, but the stuff they did in the dressing room and with our young players behind the scenes really helped out.
Is Luke Shen one of those guys as well, who's kind of added some something to the team that isn't necessarily seen on the score sheet?
Yeah, he was good. Like, he came in and he was a leader in the dressing room. You know, Travis said he's going to play him with Quinn, and he helped Quinn out there. You know, he came to the defense of, you know, Petey, I remember, in one game, and you know, he's a good person. Has, you know, a lot of experience of playing in the league, and he was, you know, he provided a need for us. He was a physical, stay-at-home defenseman, but he moved the puck fast, and I thought he played well for us.
Jim, getting back to Utica for just a minute, when you were with us in the intermission the other day on Sportsnet 650, you talked about how you're going to travel down there.
Yeah.
What are you hoping to accomplish from that
I
trip
just-
and getting down there?
Yeah, I just want to spend some time with the coaches and, you know, talk to them and, you know, get their thoughts on, you know, I have a pretty good idea in talking to RJ all year and getting his thoughts on the team and Doug Jarvis, but I just want to hear from the coaches and, you know, just spend some time, you know, talking to them and figuring out, you know, some things going forward.
How did you assess the performances of some of the players that came up and played on your roster from Utica this season?
Well, I think that's, you know, that's the thing that gets overlooked is, you know, Thatcher Demko, you know, he developed there the last few years and came in and, you know, played some good games for us. We've developed him down there. Zach McEwen had a real good year down there and came up and played some games for us. Breezebaugh came up and, you know, he got games for us. Sautner, you know, he's been down there for 3 years now, and we signed him as a unrestricted player and or free agent, and he's, you know, he's developed into a guy that can play games for us in the NHL. So, you know, I think sometimes that part gets overlooked is our guys are doing good work down there. We would all like it, you know, for it to be faster, but everybody develops on their own path. So we're going to continue to be patient and develop our players properly, and then when they're ready, get them up here and get a look at them.
And Travis, from your perspective, some of those players were talking about how valuable was this experience for them this year, for guys like Breezebois to get an extended run, even if they're not necessarily going to be on the NHL roster next year.
It is. Every player develops at a different rate. And when you're in the American Hockey League, you're there for a reason. You have to improve to get better to play in the NHL, or else you'd already be here. And I think experience up in the NHL helps a lot of players. Breeze, you could see it every time he came up. He's a good example that, you know, his confidence level got higher each time he came here, and I think it changes from player to player. You'll see some guys come up and they never go back, but it's also, you know, a great experience when they do come, and it helps them.
Go to Ed Willis.
Yeah, I'd like both gentlemen to have a crack at this, but Travis first. The kind of narrative about this team this season was about developing players, about trying to change their culture.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things that weren't necessarily to do with wins and losses. Does that change next season? Do you have to be about wins and losses?
Well, I think we've said we want to keep improving every year. We took a step last year, and neither one of us want to sit here and continue to stay at the same rate. We want to take another step next summer or next season. Now, 2 days after the season, you know, exactly what are the steps we're going to take? Well, like Jim said, we'll meet in the upcoming weeks and talk about where we need to improve. And part of it is with the players that are on our team and come back, they have a huge part in that. And whatever we do over the summer, we'll have a clear picture of where we're at next season. But this is about getting better. And right from, you know, my first day here, it's not about just sneaking into playoffs. It's how do you win, and how do you win long term and give yourself a chance to win a Stanley Cup, not just 1 year, but for a few years.
Jim, do you think you guys can be ready to challenge for that playoff spot next season and be really impactful?
Yeah, like we want to take the next step, Ed. Like we felt like we took a step this year, and you know we have a lot of work to do this summer, and we want to take the next step next year.
Jim, when you first came to the Canucks, you were trying to build a playoff team around a core that was already here when you came in. What did you learn from that might change your approach as you build around this new core that you've brought in?
Well, I don't know so much we changed our approach. You know, we had, you know, a post-Apex team when I took over, and, you know, I think what we tried to do is, you know, and we've talked about it ever since I took over, and I think that's one of the reasons why they brought me in. It's about drafting well, developing our players and getting that next core group in place. But it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, like when you draft a player, sometimes they have to go back for 1 or 2 years, either junior or college, before they're ready to turn pro. I think, we've done a good job drafting, and, our young players, and especially some of our first round picks, have been able to step right in and play in the NHL. But as we, continue to go forward, we're going to get another good player in this year's draft. But as we continue to grow forward and continue to build up our prospect depth, we're going to have, like for me, if we get to a point where we have 15 kids that, are players that we're developing in our minor league team that have a chance to be NHL players someday, that's where we want to get to. And I think we're on that path, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
And Travis, you've talked about the development curves of different players. One player that kind of became a story throughout the season was Nikolai Goldobin. What went wrong for him this season that maybe he could address in the offseason?
Well, I haven't met with Goldie yet, so I'll meet with him later today. We'll talk about that, and yeah, the season didn't go exactly how we wanted, and that happens with young players. Not every young player is going to become a full-time NHLer, and the onus is on us to continue to work with them and develop him, and the onus is going to go back to the player. I'd like to see Goldie make some changes this summer in how he trains, and what he does over the summer to make himself come in a better hockey player. And those are things that I'll discuss with Goldie, and he'll understand where he stands.
You had a couple of defensemen come in from the college ranks towards the end of the season, Tevez and Rafferty.
Yeah.
What did you see from them and where do you think they fit in the defensive depth going forward?
Well, I thought Tevez did well in his game. Again, when we meet with him, we'll tell him where he needs to work on over the summer. I thought Rafferty made some subtle, really, some nice plays in the last few games, especially the last one in St. Louis. Looked a little more comfortable in his second game, obviously. I liked his size. I liked the stiffness of his stick. He made a crisp pass. He handled a loose puck cleanly. These are little things that you might not see just watching the game, but I liked what I saw. And again, he's going to have another summer and come in hopefully a more improved player than he is now.
Jim, what does the future look like for guys who were a significant part of your core, but you could argue the core has changed because you've wanted to get younger, you've wanted to get faster? I speak of Alex Edler, a good season, but got, fought injuries. Same with Chris, Brandon Sutter again, and we have to bring up Louis Eriksson and what value he brings to this team. What does the future hold for them in terms of moving forward as a hockey team?
So with Alex Edler, we are going to try to get him signed. He's an important guy in our room. He's one of, when Travis talks about the leaders in our room, he's one of the guys that our young players look up to. I thought on the ice he had an excellent year for us this year. He's big and strong, and he's, probably our best penalty killer and plays on our power play. And, you see the minutes that we use him, and so we're going to try to get him re-signed. And as far as the rest of the players, we're going to have conversations here as a management team with our coaches in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to talk about those things and act accordingly as to the plan we come up with.
Thatcher looked good in his last couple of games. Did you see a sizable body of work to know where you want to go with your goaltending moving forward, especially seeing how Jacob Markstrom was your MVP? Looks like he's a bona fide number one. Where do you see Markstrom's future, for how long, and how do you see your goaltending playing out?
Well, I think both of them had good seasons. Marky had a phenomenal year. I like the progression of Demmer. And it's not surprising. I think from day one we've said that we have a lot of belief in him and wanted to make sure we brought him along the right way. Obviously injuries derailed a lot of his games played, but he looked sharp down the stretch. I think that's a good problem to have. You got a goalie that was your MVP. You got a young goalie that's played some games that look like he's ready to play a lot more games, which you want in your backup. And it's a great problem when you have two goalies that were sharp.
Jim, what's your thought process moving forward, though, in terms of extension-wise for Jacob? How many years do you give him, especially when you have Demko doing what he did for you?
Yeah, we're gonna, he's got another year left on his contract. We've started those conversations. I've started those conversations already internally with our group and trying to figure out like what the timeline looks like for both guys. And, that's something that, after July 1st, we can re-sign Jacob. And, that's something if we decide we're gonna go in that direction, we can look to do.
Just before we continue, I'd ask that you keep it to one question so we can get through everyone's questions as we're starting to wrap up here. We'll go to Jeff next, please. Thanks.
The center ice position obviously is so important, and you guys look set now at 1 and 2. Then it gets a little murkier on the depth chart. Adam Gaudette looked like he arrived sort of mid-season. He had a 6-week stretch where he was productive, he was playing a lot. He didn't score the final 20 games and had just 2 points in those final 20. So I guess it's a 2-part question, if I can. Where is Adam Gaudette in his development after 1 full year in the NHL, and where does he sort of slot in 3 and 4 when you've got Sutter, if he's healthy when he comes back, and Jay Beagle obviously is under contract for a while?
As far as Adam goes, I think you're right. I thought he, down the stretch, a lot like a lot of our young players, it got a little heavy. It got a little hard for him. And is that going to help him in the long run? Yeah, I think it will. I've said it a lot. I like Adam. Does he need to become a better hockey player? Yeah, he does still. Needs to improve. He needs to work on his strength, his skating, his shot. It's a big summer for him. There's no guarantees. But I think he's a very promising young centerman that's going to play in the league. I think he has a chance to play in the league for a while. And I think he's committed to working and putting in the work that he needs to. That's one of the things that we really like about Adam, is that he's a real committed player, hardworking, wants to get better. And again, the more players that you have that are NHL ready, the better.
Where do you sort of see that on the depth chart?
Yeah, well, we like kind of the plan, like in a perfect world, we would have probably went with Petey, Bo, Sutter, and Beagle. Like that was the plan on the onset, but we have injuries, and so like it would have been nice for Adam to spend more time in the American League this year, and because it's a big step, even going from college hockey to being a pro, and to develop his skill set is, I'm talking handling the puck, and when he was in the American League, he produced points. Like in a perfect world, it would have been nice if we could have done that, but through injury, we weren't able to do that, and he did come up and at times looked good, but at times, looked like a first-year player that, needs to continue to work to get stronger and faster, and so he's another guy that we're working with and to develop, and hopefully he gets where we think he can get to.
I'll ask you about Sven Berchi, who you guys have had as a top 6 winger when healthy. Given the concussion history now, how comfortable are you entering next season with him as a potential top 6 guy? And bigger picture, I know you got him back in for a few games at the end of the year, but is there a discussion to be had about his future in hockey?
I don't have any question about it. He's healthy at the end of the year. He feels good. Again, though, we're going to challenge Sven to come back stronger and better. He's had a long year. Missed some time, missed some conditioning, missed some working out, and he's going to have to be a player that comes back and has a strong season.
Yeah, like he got off to a good start with us. I think he had like 8 goals in 22 games, and looked like before he got hurt, like he was going to be that 20-goal scorer that we kind of hope and thought he'd develop into. Through injury, he missed a lot of time, and then when he came back, because he missed so much time, his timing was off and stuff, and I thought, had one good game when he came back, but, he has a big summer ahead of him. I talked to him yesterday, and he's going to have to, come into camp and show us that, he's going to be, because he's not a young player anymore. He's a guy that needs to come in and score and give us, offense, and so it's going to be up to him.
Sorry, Ben. I guess where I was going with the question was just that concussions are tricky. You can't train for that in the offseason. So given that, are you comfortable bringing him out there knowing that is just a a minor moment away from recurring.
Well, he's healthy now, and, that's what we go on. He's 100% healthy now. I think he's feeling good. So we don't know. Like any player that plays, can get concussed, and we're just hoping that, he's back healthy and can play for us next year.
Jim, I know
Joey,
you.
then Ed, then Ian, over here at Coos and Botch, and then we're going to have to wrap it up, guys.
Jim, I know you said early at the season start that you wouldn't be talking to Brock Besser about contract extension until the season's over. What can you tell fans where that sits now, and are you hopeful you can get something done soon?
Yeah, we're gonna start talking to his group here this next couple weeks, and we're hoping that we can get it done sooner rather than later. But until we discuss with them what they want and what we're willing to do, that I don't really know where that sits right now. But we're going to start that process in the next couple weeks.
Jim, where's Ole Ulevi at? And is he at a place in the organization that's commensurate with a 5th overall pick?
Yeah, this is a thing, when we talk about our defense and addressing our defenses, we've been trying to look at our defense for the last 3 or 4 years, and that's one of the reasons why we drafted Ole 5th overall, because, we were excited about getting him at 5 because we just think he can be a real good puck-moving. He's got his head up. He can move the puck up ice. He's ran into some bad luck with injuries. I talked to him a couple weeks ago. He's on the path to recovery. He's looking forward to having a good summer, and we're hoping that can compete the whole year without being hurt. He started off the year real well in Utica, played I think 18 games, had 13 points, was playing the power play, PK, playing 22 to 25 minutes a night. If he wasn't hurt, we would have probably seen him up here this last half of the year. So, he's a guy that he needs to have a good summer, but we're looking forward to him, being part of our group moving forward.
Travis, the team improved 8 points this year. How hard would it be to improve the next 10 or 12 points, and what do you have to do to get there?
Well, I think sometimes as coaches at the end of the season, you sit there and say, we could have had 8 to 10 more points this year. But I think there's probably a lot of teams that say that at the end of the season. So again, we just have to keep pushing forward. I don't think there's a magic formula. When you look at it, simplest version is score more, allow less. And you look at the teams that make the playoffs, just goal differential is a big part of it. And it sounds simple, but that's really in a nutshell. How do we score more, and how do we allow less in the net? And again, this off season it's a big part of going through your past season and seeing how you can be better and how do you improve for next season. And we'll do all of that and spend months doing it. And once you get your final, or have an idea of what your final roster is going to look like, after July into the middle of July, you'll have a good idea of what you're dealing with for next year. But we're gonna be better next year. I have no doubt about it. And I thought we took a good step this year, and we'll take another one next year.
Travis, a follow on Jake, with all your challenges on the left side, we talked about Berchi, Goldobin, Spooner, guys you tried on the left side. You had Jake playing there on his off wing. Was that just a curiosity, or is that a possibility for next season when you do seem to have some question marks on the left side? Roussel could be out minimum 6 to 7 months.
It was because of a couple things. I felt Petey and Best. I wanted to have a bigger body, a faster player with them. I do like wingers that can play both sides. It's a nice option to have. And when we were fiddling around with line combos, we put that down and thought, why not take a look at it and see if he brings that to the table with that group. Now, is he the perfect guy to play with those guys? I'm not sure about that. His game would have to develop for that to happen. And but it's a nice option to have if you can play a winger on both sides.
Just a quick follow. Have you accepted an invitation to coach at the Worlds?
No.
Travis, you talked a couple of times about next year and wanting to take the next step. And obviously you're in a process to try to build a great team.
Yeah.
Like, what is the timeline to you? Like, when do you think that this team can be great?
Great, or take another step? Well, again, like, I think improving is the next step. And is that making the playoffs? I think we'll have a clearer picture of that once the season.
Not necessarily next year, like in the big picture, like how, like.
Well, again, you're asking for a specific time, and I don't know if anyone can put that timeline, but I think Jim, when he said, you know, you look at teams that win and the age of their players, how many teams have their best player as a 20, 21-year-old? You know, can he be 22, 23, 24 when you're ready to challenge? How much better is he going to be in 2 years, in 3 years? And I think, you know, that's something that we can all sit in this room and try to guess. When are we going to be ready to win a Stanley Cup? And that is, you know, there's a difference between making the playoffs and winning a Stanley Cup. Like, you know, I look forward to it. I've done it for a long time, watched, played in the games in the playoffs. It's different. And it's different in the first round, and it's a lot different in the fourth round. And the wear and tear your body takes when you get there is intense, and our young guys are a big part of that. And you look at a team like Washington, how long it took them to win, and how many kicks they had at it. You know, they had a team, Pittsburgh, that was, you know, they had to play every year, who had some good players too. So I don't think you can put an actual time, like this is when we're going to challenge for a Stanley Cup, but I know the process involves us continuing to get better. And, you know, I think we took a step this year. I'm excited. I hope the fans are. I think our team has taken a step this season. I think we're going to take another step next year. And we've got young players that I believe you can win with. And that, for me, is important. You have to have top-end guys to win. You look at anyone that does, they have exceptional players. And we need to make sure that our young guys continue to become those guys that you win with, and I'm confident that they can.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you, Travis.